So the US is talking about raising rates again. They're looking at another 0.75 interest rate hike. Europe has recently discussed increasing rates alongside with the US. Now, Europe is a very fancy area. People talk about traveling to Europe. It's beautiful, but their economies as a whole are not as strong as the US. Here is a chart of the European unemployment rates by country. And there are some low countries. 4.9, 4.5, 3.1, 3.2. Spain sticks out at 16%. Italy at 10. You've got the Croatia, Bosnia, Herzegovina kind of area of the world that are double digits. So it's not incredibly awful. It's not incredibly great. It's just, hey, it's probably more normal than what we have in the US. I mean, the US unemployment rate is what, 3.7%? So it's a lot lower. Then you look at places like China. So a very common question we get is, Paul, what's going to happen about global recession? Is there going to be a global recession? Well, we've had a global boom for a long time. And even though Spain is at 16%, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, they were at 25%. So it's gotten better. And Spain's a beautiful country. And I was just there last August, and I didn't feel like it was poverty stricken or anything like that. It was very clean. It was beautiful. But you look at the world. The world has about $85 trillion in total GDP. The US is 21 trillion of that. So even though the US population is 330 million versus 7.75 billion for the entire world, so we make up less than 5% of the world population, but we make up 25% of entire world GDP. So the US is really going to push a lot of that world GDP. Where the US goes, probably a lot of the world's going to go. Why? Well, we buy a lot. So we import from a lot of poorer countries like China. But you look at countries like China and India, and you've got to remember that recessions for them aren't exactly like recessions for us, right? Recessions for them are a slowdown of growth. Recessions for us is contraction, where the economy actually shrinks relative to GDP. For them, it's, hey, we were growing 8% a year, now we're growing 3 or 4%. That's a recession for them. So when we have a recession and unemployment goes up and we're buying less goods, that is much more likely to affect them. They're going to be affected because we buy goods from them. We outsource a lot of work to China and India and other poorer countries. So you sit there and feel that and say, okay, what would make them worry? Well, they're going to look to us and say, hey, what's going on in the US? What's your guys' plan? So when we're raising rates, slowing down our economy, because of our 25% hold of the entire world GDP, they're going to actively look and say, okay, we have to slow down because we want to make sure that we don't overdo things and all of a sudden the US slows down and we can't pay for these things. You look at China. China's been notorious for building cities, basically empty cities. There's a 60 Minutes report that was done a few years ago where they literally sat in the highway in an empty city, just sitting there. Now, I don't know if it was an exaggeration, but that has occurred. So a very common concern about China is they're having more lockdowns again, which is going to stunt their growth and maybe even go to, is it possible they go to negative growth? Maybe. But remember, guys, if you're new to this channel, I'm Paul. I'm a value investor. My goal isn't to be affected by day-to-day, quarter-to-quarter, year-to-year reactions to what's going on. My goal is to look at long-term and say, okay, we're sitting here in 2022. China is the fastest growing middle class. It's got a lot of growth potential over a long period of time. Is China going to be a bigger economy than the US? Absolutely. Are they eventually going to catch up to us on a per capita basis? Maybe so. It might take a very, very long time, but as a total, when they have 1.6 billion people versus our 330, 1.6 billion versus 330, they are 5 times larger than us. So they have to make 1/5 of our per capita income to get to be a larger overall economy than us. So they're almost there right now. Once they get there, they're going to surpass us, and that's okay. It's okay to not be the largest overall economy. We're still going to have a very, very high per capita. And it's okay for China to slow down. It's okay to have recessions. Just like it's okay for you to get sick every once in a while. You get sick and you recover and you're stronger, your immune system's better, and you get better, etc. Go look at history. Go look at the last 100 years. Every country in the world has had some sort of really bad recession or depression or something like that. And guess what? They eventually come out of it, and they're stronger and they're better and they get to new higher highs. And that's going to happen for the rest of time. We're not now, do we have an issue with population growth? Yeah, we're going to have that issue. And what's going to happen with it? I don't know. In China, they had population issue on too much population growth, where they were limiting the number of people that could have kids. Okay, That's part of it. They still grew, they still got better, and it's been going on. They had a very socialist government, and many would argue they're still too socialist, but guess what? They're going to like freedom, economic freedom. They're going to like these things, and they're going to become more and more economically free as time goes on. And that is awesome for China. And I love it for China, and I love it for the US. Remember, a strong world is still great for the US. It's okay for us not to be the largest economy in the world. The pie of the world economy is this. Right now, we occupy this. Someday, we might only occupy this. And people would say that's terrible. Well, I would argue differently. If the pie is getting bigger and we now have this much, we can still grow our overall piece while being a smaller percentage of the entire world. We're having a smaller piece of a much bigger pie, and that's okay. In fact, that's great. We want the entire world to do better. We don't want everybody just relying on us. Guys, we haven't even touched Africa. Africa, I truly believe, is the next frontier of massive growth in this world. Why? It's underdeveloped. You got a lot of people who really want to have economic opportunity, and there's a lot of corruption going on there, which could be lessened, and all of a sudden people start making more money, and they're going to enjoy that much, much more. So Africa, I think, over the next few decades will start to become the China, India of the past, of today, and of the recent past. There's going to be a lot of investment going on in Africa. You're starting to see, just like it was in China 20 some years ago, people, hey, there's some billionaires popping up in China. Now you're starting to see, hey, there's going to be some billionaires popping up in Africa. There already have been a few, and that will increase and get stronger and stronger. In our company, I've talked to my brother and saying, hey, how do we invest in Africa? It is harder to do, but just like it's hard to do in China 20 years ago, and even to today, they have restrictions on those things. So we'll see how it goes, but where we go is going to drive the rest of the world. But don't forget, the rest of the world's a lot poorer than us overall. So as they get richer and richer and richer, it's going to be good for everybody. Let's not have this terrible view of the world of like, oh, it's got to be us at all times. No. Look at Great Britain. 100 and some years ago, Great Britain was the country in the world. We overtook them. Is Great Britain still awesome? Absolutely. It is United Kingdom, Great Britain. It's still a great economic powerhouse and place to live. Yes, we overtook them, but it didn't mean that they lost their ability to be a dominant country. They're still a great and dominant country. And that's wonderful for everyone. It made us wealthier. They made other people wealthier. It's all good for everybody. So if you like this view of the world and you like the fact that I'm not just looking at it as, oh, F everyone else. Like I look at Mexico, and yes, I'm biased because I have 2 homes in Mexico. I love the country. I think it's the most underrated country in the world. But literally, it's our neighbor. We have a vested interest in making Mexico a stronger country. We have a vested interest for Mexico that if we make them a stronger country, if we help make them a stronger country, then all the people crossing the border and risking their lives to come here will lessen and lessen. We want Mexico to be strong. Have that same mentality for the rest of the world. We want everyone in the world to be strong. Because guess what? If you don't like wars, it's really difficult for countries who have economic ties together to go to war. That's a very important part. Peace and stability is ever more prevalent when countries work together to be economically strong. We want that for everyone. So if you like what I'm saying here and you want to learn more about the channel, you must check out this next video that recessions are an opportunity of a lifetime. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for your time.